Go for it, dude.
Hey, good afternoon, everybody out there in TV land. This is episode number 32, Coach. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
We have the great Greeley wrestling superstar, New York State champ, 1995, three-time All-Section, four-time All-League, and our New York State champ, Mr. Morgan Carey. Welcome, Morgan Carey.
How you doing?
Was I right? Three-time All-Section?
I guess, yeah, all section. I was second my sophomore and junior year, so I guess.
Who did you wrestle in your sophomore and junior year? Who was the guy that beat you in the state section finals?
Well, my sophomore year, you might have heard of a guy named Phil Donnelly.
Yes, four-time All-Section wrestler.
Yeah, so Phil Donnelly.
Four-time section champ.
Yeah, he was a four-time section champ. So I was a sophomore, and I was my goal was to make it to the finals. So I made it to the finals against Phil Donnelly, and he was a senior, so it was his fourth time winning the section. It was his 150th win, and I bridged for 2 periods, and old school bridge just straight up, and my neck was sore for about 10 days. But finally got to the third period, and I went up to the States and watched him place second. He had a bum knee, but he placed second up the States that year.
You know, all this is a little bit before my time. Not much, like maybe 10 years or so. But, like, I know that guy was that good where I very much recognize that name.
Sure.
And we're kind of jumping around a little bit where we kind of the age-old question we've been asking everybody to start is, Morgan, how did you even get into wrestling in the first place? Like, how did it even start?
Yeah, absolutely. I was 7 years old, and I was in, obviously, the Chapco School District. And, you know, the old teachers would say to your parents, he's a little aggressive. He's got a little bit of too much energy, one of those kids. So great friend of the family, Bruce Bell, who's big-time father of Adam Bell in Ossining.
I remember Adam Bell. He was tough. He used to beat Brian and Cherry.
Yeah.
In the section finals. Bell went to States.
He never did. He almost, you had to win the section to get out. Ambrose Aston caught him his senior year. Remember Ambrose Aston, a strong guy from Sleepy Hollow?
Yeah, he beat me.
Yeah, he was strong as an ox.
I was gonna say that name sounds familiar, but that was probably from you, DeBella.
Sleepy Hollow, yeah. Ambrose Aston, I wrestled him in the Shoreline tournament. The funny thing is, when I was in the New York State Championship in college, I was at 150, and he was at 158, and we were both in the finals.
Oh, nice. Yeah, he was tough as nails.
Yeah, he wrestled for Syracuse.
So he talked to my parents, and my father had a business in Briarcliff, New York, so we used the address from there. And I joined Ossining Police Athletic League at the age of 7 years old. And Bruce pretty much drove me to every practice the first year. And funny story, my first tournament that I was going to, I was so nervous. I was driving in the car and I felt all warm, and I literally threw up in my lap. And we got to the tournament. Bruce found a bathroom and washed it in the sink and dried it in a hand dryer. And I was like, I'm too nervous to go out there because, you know, wrestling it's just you don't have teammates. And he's like, you're going to get your ass in the singlet and get out there after what I just did. And yeah, I mean, I wasn't a natural wrestler at all. I was 2-2 my first year. So.
Wow, 2-2, it's crazy. And then, you know, eventually being a state champion. And I remember when I started wrestling, Coach Clay was already at Greeley, so he was doing the youth program. But I would go to Ossining a lot too because they did like youth stuff and open mat stuff. Do you remember like the early days in that room? Because if I remember correctly, I think they have a new wrestling room now, but that used to be like a dungeon down there. Like, you know.
That was brand new when I was maybe 9. So that was like exciting for us. We used to roll up the mats every day upstairs at the old gym. And yeah, Coach Kalea was the head youth coach. So he would go from coaching the varsity and like people like not making weight and losing a dual meet to coming and coaching a whole bunch of kids. And, you know, the guy worked at Sing Sing prison. So he's already bent out of shape and he's screaming at us. We're like, ah. But you grew a thick skin quickly in that program, but it was good. It was very good.
So over there, you're saying that it was a tougher room, that it wasn't like when we do youth at Greeley, we do a lot of fun games and we kind of keep them interested. But you're saying over there, it was a meat grinder.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there was. I couldn't name another youth program besides maybe Suffern. Like we would always go to Suffern, George Fuge tournament.
Yeah. That was like one of the only tournaments around.
Yeah, I mean, there was Walden, Suffern. There wasn't many even youth programs back then.
No.
There was few and far between. And a game, yeah, there was no games. I remember what this is old school, right? I told Kaleo that it was my birthday. And he's like, "Oh, it's your birthday. That's great. We're going to celebrate your birthday after practice." I'm like, "Oh, okay. Sounds good." So at the end of practice, he says, "All right, go put your hands against the wall. Everybody's going to say happy birthday." So they all came up and whacked me as hard as they could, dude. That was old school.
You could not get away with
else
that.
would be in prison right now if that was.
We would be in prison for sure.
But
I was 25.
of course, I don't even blame him for that. It's just a different time. It's just a different time in the world, you know.
Can you imagine that? You come home with 25 different kids' handprints on your back.
Well, it obviously helped Morgan in the wrestling field because he ended up being a friggin' stud. So hey,
There was
a couple of
24
hand marks on your back, state title. I'll take the hand marks.
There's 24 other kids in that room that didn't win state titles.
That's
Still
true. That is true. That's a different way to look at it for sure. But we're interviewing the guy that did win the state title, so let's go with that narrative. You know. But Morgan, so curious. So you said I'm sorry.
It was a great room. I mean, we had Dominic Vallejo. Like him and I would go at it. We are the same weight. Tornambes, I'm sure you know the Tornambes. Mm-hmm. Steve, John, Anthony, they were all in that room. I was in that room for 2 to 3 years, and Julius Smith walked in and was able to beat me. You know, he was just such a natural athlete. And I don't know if you ever heard Julius Smith.
Sleepy Hollow.
He didn't win the states my junior year.
Yeah, the name, I heard Kaleo maybe talked about him before, but I've heard the name before.
He won the year before me. And then but yeah, it was a stacked room. I mean, a big crop of Austin kids that were great.
Yeah, they were great wrestlers in the 90s. They were section champs. I think 91.
They're always tough too, Austin. I mean, even now, you know, Tom Larm's doing a good job over there trying to like get them back up to where they were. But you got a lot of tough kids over there, you know. So if you get them committed and ready to go, you have a nice foundation to build a good program. You know, but Maury, I'm curious because you said you went 2-2 your first year. So how did you keep that like love for wrestling growing? Because it wasn't like you went out there and you were like uber successful right off the bat and you were just killing everybody. Like what made you say, you know what, I like this. I'm going to keep going to Austin practices. I'm going to try to win these youth tournaments, you know, or whatever it may have been.
It was a little bit of everything, I would say. I mean, it definitely helped me in school. You know, it's you're able to take that aggression and, you know, extra energy and focus it. I love the one-on-one competition. I hated to lose. I loved to win. And, you know, my second year I was 4-2. I had a little piece of paper and I had my record on there right through youth. You know, it was like, and you could see the progression. But, you know, there was setbacks. That was frustrating to be in that room for 2 to 3 years and then have somebody walk up the street the same weight as you and be able to beat you. But, you know, I think that's the great thing about wrestling for everybody is it builds such character. I mean, if you can just keep challenging yourself and you know, all right, you kind of fall off the horse, get back up type of thing and just work harder and keep your head down, you know. So like, for instance, Julius Smith, you know, he comes in the room, he can beat me in youth. And then I watch him win the states my junior year. In my head, I'm like, that's got to be me next year. Like I should have been out there.
That's great. So you went into the modified, right, for Horace Greeley. You wrestled for Bell because there was no Seven Bridges.
What happened was it was difficult. Kaleo wanted me to actually switch schools and go to Austin, but I was learning disabled. And that's also part of, you know, with the wrestling, it definitely helped me, you know, focus academically. So Chappaqua schools would not allow anybody to compete 7th and 8th grade, no matter what. So basically, Kuzma finally retired, right? I know he's like 80 years old.
He did. He retired and then came back for a second.
Trouble. Kuzma's awesome, right? So Kuzma looked the other way a little bit, and I was able to practice with the varsity in JV.
Okay.
So I practiced 7th and 8th grade with Greeley. I could not compete in any way.
But at that weight class, you could beat the starter?
Oh, yeah. So it was frustrating. I think it definitely held me back because I did a lot of freestyle wrestling in the off season with people like Joe and Jeff Regan from Mayapack. You know, they were 91, 98 pounds, 7th and 8th grade. And, you know, watching my buddies in the stands competing, you know, it stunk. But what was fun about it was as a freshman, you know, I wasn't really a lightweight. I was 132. So it was kind of like, heck's this kid from Greeley, you know, hanging with seniors and, you know, competing. Nobody, you don't see freshmen typically back then, especially back then, being competitive as a freshman from Greeley. So that was kind of fun.
Well, it's a couple of interesting things there. One is, you know, similar to, yeah, you know, I keep trying.
Coach got the baby in the background.
I'm trying to mute myself whenever I'm not talking.
Job.
But what Morgan said about middle school, like that's the same issue that I had. That's the same issue Aaron Walk had. That's the same, like it's got to be handled, you know. And I know you're trying, Coach, but it's like it's unfair for a guy like Morgan was wrestling his butt off from a second grader. He was seeing guys that he competed with, getting to go up to varsity, and he ended up being a state champion. It worked out fine. It worked out fine for Aaron Walk also, but you know, worked out for me okay. I was all state as well, but like, you know, who would have known? Maybe Morgan would have been a 3-time state champion if he got a little more experience on varsity, you know, and maybe it would have changed some things. And it's just like, you know, you're training with these guys. If you're capable of beating the person, why can't you go up? You know, what are we teaching the kids? That, you know, the better kid's not going to get to start? I don't understand that. I don't understand that culture or that idea.
I had no idea it was still like that. I would have assumed it had changed, you know, and especially wrestling's different than most sports. It's an individual sport. So if they should do it for any sport, it should be wrestling. And like Coach Swartfagger always preached, you know, you go to practice, you go home, you do your homework, and you go home and you go to sleep. Like, it's just going to improve your academics. It's going to make you mature sooner. I don't see any downside to it for the district, or especially the kids. I had no idea it was still like that.
I think Morgan, I think us and maybe John Jay are the only 2 teams in the section that don't allow it, though, which is also unfair for us, too, because sometimes we'll forfeit a 99 or something like that. But we don't have the competitive advantage of saying, hey, we have this 8th grader that's ready, and he's 95, 96 pounds. We can't pull him up. It's us. I think it's us and John Jay Cross River. I think we're the only 2 that can.
It's unfortunate. We've been trying, and my son's coming up. He's in the district now. He's a 5th grader, and I think he'd be, you know,
yeah,
I mean,
Nikki would be 100% ready to go. Nikki, like, you know, he did some club stuff, Nikki, and he would be up there with some high school guys, and he's not going to be the PJ Dukes of the world yet or anybody like that. But like random little 99 pounders, he can roll around with them now, you know. So when he's a 7th grader, 8th grader, there's no reason. I don't know. I just think it's silly. I think it's, you know, it's maybe some of the parents' egos. You know, the older, like, you know, juniors. Not our parents are great. I'm just saying in general for Greeley, saying like we don't want an 8th grader taking a 10th grader spot or something. But I feel like you're teaching somebody the wrong idea there, because what happens when you both are 35 and 40 and somebody just takes the job over you? That's real life, you know. So get over it.
Like, you know, everybody gets a participation trophy.
I don't like that.
Come on, earn your keep. It's, yeah, exactly. In the business world, it's not, you know, everybody gets a job. It's, you know, who's the most talented. But like, yeah, my parents were like, do you want us to sign something? Like that, you know, what can we do? And they just were like, there's nothing. So.
And you had some great softball players like Maddie Kuhn, I think. I forget her last name.
Maddie Kuhn, that's my age. She graduated my year. She's one of the best softball players in the whole entire country. She could have been in varsity as an 8th grader easily.
Yeah. So, okay, so Morgan, we move on. You get out of the youth or the modified, and you're into your freshman year. You said you were pretty successful at 132 pounds. How did that season go?
I mean, I was successful. I was 15 wins, 12 losses. I won my first match in the sectionals. So that was as far as I got. You know, I wrestled, a majority of the kids I wrestled were seniors at that weight. But from there, you know, Coach Swartfagger really got me into lifting and setting more goals. And my next year, I was 30 wins, 4 losses, got to the section finals. And then, Donnelly beat me. He went and took second. And my junior year, I was 27-3, I believe. And I took second again against Wayne Davis from Suffolk, who went and took third.
Oh, wow. So you had some studs there. It wasn't like you, because there's weights at sectionals we'll see where, it's up for grabs. There's no like horse to win a state, a state contender maybe in the weight. So both years that you didn't win, you had somebody in your weight class that was legit on the state level.
Yeah, I mean, my sophomore year was probably, easier to get to the finals because everybody ducked Donnelly. And
what year was that? 92?
Yes. My junior year, no, it was 93. My junior year was 94.
Your freshman year, I was a senior.
Yes. Yep. So my junior year, I actually kicked myself. A lot of people ducked Wayne Davis because he was a stud. And at 145 pounds, that weight class was up for grabs. And there was a decent amount of kids that I had already beaten. So looking back, I would have probably went 145 and seen where it would have panned out. Part of me was like, if I don't get to the finals now, I went backwards. But looking back, I had a better shot of actually winning. So
Yeah, sometimes take the chance.
Nowadays is you have your wild card.
Yeah.
Then it was
so different. I mean, the wild card just changes everything where kids can take chances,
Yeah, it's great.
Because Jacob Ferrer, for example, I don't know if you've been following really a little bit, but he took second in the state 2 years ago. He lost to a Section 1 kid in the state finals, the same kid he lost to in the section finals. Now, if that was in your time or even my time, wild cards came like 2 years after me. Those two clearly could have been the best two in the state, but if they go the same weight class, and I'm sure it happens in Section 11 all the time and
Yeah.
that. So I'm glad that they added that. I'm curious, Maureen, so when you got into varsity, you were pretty tough right off the bat, 15-12. How was like the culture there? Like, because I know Bill's a great coach, but you go through peaks and valleys. When I got to Greeley my freshman year, we had like 9 kids on the team, and I was a year-round guy since like the 3rd grade, like you kind of thing. And I was ready to go. And it was weird for me almost. They were all great to me, but it was like they're not in this like I'm in this. Like, how was it when you kind of got into it as a freshman there, like the culture?
Yeah. My freshman year was the best team we had, I would say, for sure. We had the most talent. My freshman year was like the year after, a whole bunch of kids that were really, really good graduated. My brother Bart and Clint were on the team. CJ Sylvester, the Dean, Colin and Aaron, Aaron and Jason Deems. You probably remember all of them, DeBellis.
I remember them, yeah.
CJ's name I've heard before. That sounds familiar too, even just hearing that name.
Coach Swordfagger would probably know better, but I think I would have to guess the year before I was on the team, they probably placed in the section as a team, I would say 6th or something. That was probably, if I had to guess, that was probably their best team in years. So my freshman year, yeah, there was definitely a group of kids that were still good. They weren't wrestling year round. They were going to camps at least, and they were, setting their goals and lifting. But unfortunately, every year thereafter, the team just got like kind of worse and worse. I mean, by my junior year, I could beat the heavyweight, so it was tough. Thankfully, I had Adam Kern in the room that wrestled with me, and Kaleo was very smart. My senior year, he basically, I know, handpicked his assistant coach, a guy from Pennsylvania that could wrestle and beat me, because you always have to have somebody in the room that can beat you.
100%. And I find that interesting, though. Like, this might be I don't want to say controversial, but like, Coach Bill's an unbelievable coach. Like, you see what he did to John Jay Cross River. They've won 3 or 4 titles and dual meet championships and stuff. And it begs the question, like, when I tell people when I first started coaching at Greeley, Coach Tribo came up to me and goes, Anthony, this is a really tough egg to crack. You know that, right? like, yeah, but I came from Greeley. I was pretty successful myself. We'll figure it out, And we have, we came in 4th in the section. We've been top 10 in the state twice. But
What did Tribo say to you?
it's a tough egg to crack.
Oh, the program, like
The culture, I guess, or whatever, is a tough egg to crack.
he was my football coach.
Yeah, I mean, he's a different kind of character, but and I have respect for him, and like I said, I have a ton of respect for Bill. But I find it interesting that like his best team in years was 6th in the section, but then you see what he did at John Jay. It's like it makes it seem that maybe it is a hard community to be like super powerful in wrestling. I don't know.
I mean, it's kind of a blue collar sport. Like you have just kids that are just tough as nails, just born that way. I mean,
yeah.
And not to say like I went to the high school nationals and I'm up wrestling like farm, kids coming off the farm. It's like, so, being from a mechanics or electrician household where, you might be out doing labor at a young age and whatnot. I think, but then the other great thing with, Horace Greeley is you have parents that are really involved and they will spend the money and put their kids where they need to be.
That's true as well. And that's helped us for sure.
So it's there's two sides to everything, you know what I mean? So, they do definitely, they will push their kids to go year round and go different places. But like Bill and I, we didn't have any place to go. I learned my technique mostly from summer camps. My assistant coach, Tom Jobin, as a freshman, and Adam Kern. And then the biggest person that also helped me on the side on the off season was Carlos Jimenez.
Oh, wow.
State champ.
We're better than him. What
happened was he was dating Bruce Bell, the older gentleman that got me into wrestling. He was dating his daughter. And it was like, you're helping Morgan if you're dating my daughter. It was kind of funny. He like forced us together. It was pretty awkward to say the least, but he would take me in the off season to a whole bunch of different tournaments. We'd get the USA Wrestling and we'd go over to Connecticut and we'd make up a team, Hudson Valley Wrestlers or.
That's cool.
And Bobby Guzman, him and I would go with him and we'd actually talk Carlos into wrestling. So it was fun.
I was actually going to ask that. Oh, sorry, D. Go ahead. I can't hear you. I think you're muted or something.
What's that?
No,
I was cutting something in the back. Carlos Jimenez was tough, man. I think he graduated in 91.
Yeah, he was, him and I would go in the Croton wrestling room. Talk about, that was a very small room. He was the assistant coach to Acapinti for years back then. And we would just start 50-50. And we would I don't think I ever threw him, but I would practice trying to block him in hip placement. And him and Tom Jobin taught me how to throw. Tom Jobin was a, judo guy. So they both taught me how to throw. And that was something that you didn't see a lot. And, for instance, the state tournament, Leo was good about getting in my head. I won the section. That was my goal. I never even thought about winning the states because I was a finalist twice. My senior year, I was the reporters asking me questions, and I'm saying, I don't want to be the Buffalo Bills of Section 1 wrestling.
And there was a couple guys like that in our section.
Yeah, I mean,
Nick Grimaldi was like that. Nick Grimaldi was 3-time.
I started watching Section 1 tournaments from 6th grade on. I was at every one. And I watched so many talented wrestlers lose or especially get upset before they even made it to the finals. Those kids that just had a career and put their lives into it, and they would get caught in the cradle and pinned in like the quarters. And part of me was just, I was like, I overtrained. You never can overtrain, but I trained so much to get out of the section. So I never even thought about the states. So everybody knew me into the section. So it was pretty awesome when I finally won and went to the States. Coach Kaleo gets the local paper, and classic Kaleo style, he reads it and he goes, "Hey, check this out, Morgan." And he throws it at me and he says, "See who they picked to go to the finals?" He goes, "They didn't even mention your name." And I was like, it felt so good to be like the underdog and known. Like it was like I was a freshman in high school again. Like, who is this kid? So basically, this kid Sean Baxter, the first round I had to wrestle, was picked to go to the finals. He came out overly aggressive and came running at me. I started off the state tournament throwing him to his back, 5 points, 3 near full. And it was great. I mean, so freestyle was something that I thoroughly enjoyed in the off season. And I guess it just doesn't go on anymore.
Freestyle, I mean, it's different. It should go on. John, the club, we don't go to as much freestyle as maybe we should. But they still have freestyle states. They still have Fargo. They still have junior duels, those big freestyle things. But it's not like, I think even when I was younger, Morgan, I'm sure when you were younger, it was even more so. They had freestyle tournaments in the area.
Yeah.
Think of like random, like Austin, or they would have random freestyle tournaments, and Coach Claire would have me go to those when I was like, 7th, 8th grade. You don't see that. You don't see that as much. But to say something on what you said with your throws, and we'll get to your whole senior year. I want to hear about the whole sectionals through state run there. But I did see your highlight video, which is awesome. It's on what's that? That's like not YouTube, but the V. Yeah, it's really cool. And I
didn't hear that.
I do.
Google Morgan Carey wrestling. It pops right up.
I knew you were
in the waiting room.
Yeah, I'm gonna let them both in a second. But
we
like
have some special guests that want to come on. Something that you have in common with.
Yeah.
And then we'll get back to the interview.
But one thing before we get those guys in here is, I knew you were really good. I knew you were a state champion, but I never seen you wrestle, right? So I was like, when I watched that video, I got to see, because I was a little too young in 95. I didn't start wrestling until like 97 or so. So I got to see, and I'm like, geez, man, Morgan could throw. Like, and you're right. It's a different kids throw now, but like, my gosh, when that guy got into double unders or any of those positions, nobody was getting away. And I think that is like, a nice little back pocket tool to have, because like you said, that guy first round states comes charging at you, you toss him because you're ready for that. Like, he kind of played right into you. And we should maybe look at that a little bit more freestyle. We went as a team, Morgan, a couple of years back. I think freestyle helps folk style a lot. And especially with your positioning, right? Like if you take a double and you get rolled through, you're going to give up points. So you have to kind of stay in good position. So we took Greeley to freestyle states like 2 or 3 years ago, not Empire, not the club. We went. It was a fun experience. They got their butts kicked for the most part. Jacob and Aaron did well. But the guys that, it was just, they didn't know what freestyle was. So they were just getting turned around and whatever. I wish like, maybe next time we do it, we could push, like, let's keep going to some freestyle tournaments. Because I do think it's beneficial.
It's wrestling, especially those kids that are doing it year round, it's a tough sport. And freestyle was kind of like the time that was like more fun. It was just go hang out, obviously you want to compete, but you'd see these guys get tossed or, and it's you don't even have to be in that great a condition. So for instance, you're going hard all season, and then, freestyle is like late spring, and it's like, I don't even know. Now it's like 1 5 minute, and they just want you to be explosive. And you got to show them the hanky, and you got the different things.
They stopped that. They don't do the hanky anymore.
Yeah.
That was when I was around too. They would do like the thing, and you'd have to show them your hanky. Like they don't do that anymore.
Weird stuff, really.
You could literally pick somebody up off the mat. They give you a point for that. Suplex them onto their back. Touch ball. That's it. Like
it's fun. I think freestyle's fun, but for whatever reason, they're swaying away, and it's the only Olympic style. You're not going to be able to do college wrestling. Like, so I don't.
If you go to other countries, they don't do folk style.
I'm saying.
So it's odd
that they kind of
we're hurting ourselves.
But we're still successful. We're getting more successful as a country in freestyle. So it's kind of like.
Well, those guys in the upper levels are doing freestyle. Like, the guys from Cornell, they're doing freestyle.
No, of course. I'm saying, like, as a high school guy, like Morgan was in high school.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, like David Taylor was probably going to every tournament under the sun, whether it was freestyle, folk style, whatever. He was going everywhere. But you see, I think I think just American wrestling is offering a lot more things like clubs and the really good college guys are coming back to clubs and coaching there. So they're getting this exposure at a younger age. So when they get up to the freestyle level, they just have to get good at it, defending a gut, getting a leg lace, getting some throws, and their wrestling IQs are super high.
I think freestyle, beyond the throws, it also teaches you how to be explosive, and it also teaches you your hip placement. You're doing a gut wrench or different things. Like if you roll across your back, you'll pin yourself in freestyle. Like you have to pop your hips, and hips placement and that type of stuff is just the most, it's the key basic stuff, and it's going to help you be a better folk style wrestler, obviously.
For sure. So I'm going to let these two guys in the weighing room come, Morgan. I was hoping Coach Bill would be here. I know he's very busy with work and everything going on. Maybe some confusion with time, but we'll have these guys on for like 2 seconds, then we'll get back to the whole interview. But I think it's interesting, a nice little interesting group we could put in here. Let me see. So I'll introduce this for you, Morgan. So are we connected to audio?
Yeah.
So we have Morgan Carey. Well, we wish we had Coach Bill, our first state champion ever at Greeley history, Coach Bill. Then we had Morgan Carey, our second state champion in Greeley history. Then we have Erin Walk, our third state champion in Greeley history. And then we have Isabella Garcia, our fourth state champion in Greeley history. So Coach Sabella, this is Coach Sabella's brainstorm. He's a smart guy. And he thought it'd be cool to have all the
I thought Bill would be on here too. He was
so you'd have all the state champions for a second on one call, but we got him here, and I think it's super cool that Morgan's not that 70s are like the old era, but Morgan's kind of the newer era, 95. He's the starter of this thing, and 95 to 2019, how long of a difference is that? Somebody do the math for me. It's a pretty big jump.
95. Well, the interesting thing with Morgan and Bill Swordfager is we didn't have any section champs in between those years.
Really?
So we had back-to-back state champs, 1978 and 1995.
Wow.
I did not know that.
I think it's true.
Yeah, nobody in that era right before me won it.
No, the next one. No, before you, yeah, and they had good kids like C.J. Sylvester. But my question to all you guys, all New York State champions, Horace Greeley reps, do you guys have meetings and talk about, like, is there a club that you guys formed?
Yeah, that I can't be in, jerks.
I can't be in it either. It's horrible. I mean, listen, everybody gets in their own club. So how does it feel, guys, to be in the presence of three state champions right now?
Yeah, you guys are into it.
It's pretty cool. We've all won from the same school. We've all been able to represent Greeley pretty well. And we've all been able to accomplish the top goal in New York State.
Izzy, I know you've heard of Morgan and Erin. Is it cool to be in the same conversation? Because up until this year, until they moved our gosh darn wrestling room, we had Morgan Carey, state champ, 1995, in a big banner, and Bill Shortbaker, 1978, state champ, and we were going to put Aaron's under there, and now we can put Izzy's under there, but now we're in that little room. So you guys have been seeing his name for years. Is it cool to be in the same conversation and same category?
Yeah, definitely. I know you guys are all really good wrestlers, so it's really awesome to just be in the same group, even if it's a different state championship.
Yeah. Well, Izzy, I think you deserve to be there just as much. I mean, you won friggin' 30 matches against boys this year, so you made a couple of them cry a little and be scared of you, and I loved it. So I don't know, it's pretty cool.
Thanks, Coach.
I saw her on the news that she was the first girl to win a boys tournament ever.
Yeah. MOW too. She was MOW there. It was great.
Nice. And I'm good friends with Adam Kern, and he's obviously watching a lot of the matches, and he's like, she's a stud. You got to see her.
Oh. Or she's kind of like your style. She's a thrower. She's a thrower. But that goes to your point, freestyle. A lot of girls wrestling opportunities is freestyle. So Izzy wrestled a lot of freestyle, and I think that definitely helps her wrestling for sure. So I think that's interesting. Aaron, when are you getting a haircut, bud?
I don't know.
It's great. We'll let you two run in a second, but it's great that
Bill's not in the waiting room, is he?
No.
Yeah, he might pop in at 6.
Yeah, maybe. But it's great that Morgan is still – we got Morgan on this interview because he's the state champ in 1995, and it's great that, you two were like, when I texted you guys about it, wanted to jump in on this. And then, but you know, Aaron working out with the boys the other day, you know, giving back to the Greeley program. You're 2 years out. I think that's great. I mean, that shows the culture in the family. You know, Izzy's on the Zooms every week. She doesn't have to do that anymore. You know, encouraging her teammates. So I think when you get to a certain level in the sport and you're successful, you kind of want to give it back a little bit. And I love that, that they all have that kind of attitude, and, you know, they all worked really hard to achieve what they got. So it's really cool to have that in common.
I just want to say congratulations, Isabel and Aaron. That's awesome. I was like so proud to see you guys win, and it's exciting. It was too long between, but you got two amazing coaches, so it's great.
Morgan, you want to hear something funny about the longness? I didn't know there was all these gaps. So my junior year, that guy Tony Pinchero wrote an article about me and Greg going up to sectionals in 2004. That was the first year we won sectionals. We went up to states, and I ended up taking fourth that year. And Tony must have known, and he put in the article, this is the first Greeley State placer since 1995. So there was another 9-year gap before there was even a placer at states or a section champ. So we got to stop these big droughts, because then after that, we had another big drought. And then Scotty Wims in 2013 placed in states, maybe not as big. And then after Scotty, we've been kind of rolling with some state placers. So let's keep that going.
Absolutely. Up there at Albany, the year before Aaron won, you had somebody else in the finals, right?
Jacob was in the finals for Era. Aaron fifth, and Schreiber took fourth.
Sitting up in the stands with Coach Swartfagger, and I was like, Coach, I'm like, we're going to hopefully watch the third guy, you know? But unfortunately, I wasn't there the year Aaron won. Yeah. But definitely followed it in the papers and drive by the high school, and it was cool. They put the big sign out there for him, and it was nice.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's awesome. You two got anything else to say before we get back to Morgan Carey's senior year run here?
Yeah, well, I'm just hoping to keep helping the Greeley team. I want to see other placers, other champs in the next few years, hopefully.
I like that about you. You got anything?
Yeah, it's really great to meet you, and I'm hoping that I can stay involved, and I think our new guys have a lot of potential, so I'm hoping that we keep it going.
Awesome, guys.
Thanks. And that we get some girls on the team.
Yeah, let's keep it going for sure. Thanks for jumping on, you two. We still have a team meeting on Wednesday, so I'll see you guys on Wednesday.
All right. Thanks, Coach.
Guys, see you guys.
Thanks,
guys.
Bye.
Man, if we had Bill, that would have been even better. You're muted again, D.
That was the vision, but that's okay. One day we'll have to do a different one. We'll just do a state champ corner, like Piper's Pit, something like that.
That was
Morgan remembers Piper's Pit.
You know, I mean, I follow them in the paper, and you know, I just I'd love to see some of their recordings. Are they on YouTube or any of the?
Yeah, you can find them.
I saw Aaron's final match on the finals. He freaking pinned the guy. It was, you know,
Morgan, he beat that kid in overtime at Eastern States. So it was a big – I thought Aaron was going to win. I was feeling very confident, but I didn't know it was going to go in that fashion. I was like, oof, this is great. We almost had to make believe that we were super excited because it was too easy. It was like almost anticlimactic. I was like, what do we do here? Like, what just happened? Like, you know, like
yeah.
It was crazy. So let's talk about the rest of your senior year, though, like from your section final pretty much on through states, because, of course, I know you won. But I would like to hear, like, so going into your senior year of the finals, your junior and sophomore year, you had a really good guy in front of you both times where you could have probably won the match, but these guys are like state-level guys already. It was a big-time matchup. Who did you have in your section finals your senior year?
A kid named Jorge Morera from Scarsdale. You know, it's fun. It's tough to watch some of my matches. Like a lot of my matches, you know, you saw the highlight video where, you know, it's just being aggressive. But back then, in a closer match, nobody cut anybody. Nobody let them up.
It's true.
And, you know, my senior year, I got taken down one time my whole senior year through the states, and it was at the Super 16 finals.
Wow.
So the section final match, obviously I'm very conservative, overly conservative. I go out, I take him down 2 points. I ride him out. He stands up. I take him down. Second match, second period, I think he chooses top. I get a switch in like, 20 seconds on top, He keeps standing up, taking him down. So it was an extremely boring match. And then the same thing with the state finals. I go out, I hit a high crotch, I take the kid down 20 seconds. I'm on top for a minute and 40 seconds. He stands up, bring him to the mat, bring him to the mat, go out of bounds. And he ended up getting 3 points, and they were stall points. Yeah, I got stall points against me. And because it's tough. Like he could beat me off of the whistle, so I'm just mat returning. But they didn't like that, and it was the state finals, and Section 1, everybody's booing against you back then. I don't know. It was so it was frustrating because I should have just let the kid go like multiple times and ran up the score. I mean, that's what I teach my kids in the youth. I'm like, if you can dominate on your feet and get out from the bottom, like that's most of what you got to do.
It's kind of interesting that coach didn't think of that back then. Maybe it just wasn't a thing. Because now, like, if we get, like, some of our guys, like Aaron, for example, is really good on top. I would never want him to cut somebody. That was his position. But Jacob, on the other hand, is more of a neutral wrestler. So he would wear guys down. We're taking him down, letting him up left and right. Like, that's his go-to. But, like, even if the guy is good on top, like Aaron per se, and the guy keeps coming to his feet and wanting our feet with them, we would probably say after the second or third time, just cut him because they're gonna ding him, And like, I'm surprised that wasn't like a thing,
So we got to the point in the finals, and it's so wild. Wrestling's such a mental sport as well. Nobody thinks about that. I look up and I'm on top, and I'm going back to get back on top, and there's a minute left, and in my head I'm just like, I don't know if I could do this. And I'm like, no. You got a minute left, dude. You suck it up, I'm like, you did too much work. So he stands up again. And if I get hit now, it's 2 points. So I let him go. So actually one of the points, I finally let him go. I got hit with 2 stall points. Because the next one was going to be 2 points.
Yeah.
So it was going to be tied. So I let him go, and I immediately shot on him, held his leg. There was like 10 seconds left. And
what was the score?
Corner at all whatsoever, but I'm like, oh my God, if they gave him 2, I'm going to lose it. And I looked at the score didn't stay, the score was right, but how they sometimes do that last second with the flipping of the score. But no, it was good. I cut him and shot immediately, but it should have never been that close. It was just frustrating. I don't like.
It's amazing.
I don't like
the state title, right?
What's that?
It's come up in every one of our videos that, no matter where you end up, you always have a little bit of regret somewhere where you're like, you're saying that you should have beat him worse. And you're
state champ. I mean,
it's just a mentality of a wrestler.
I hate stalling. Like, I'm the guy that like stands, boo. I would have been booing myself. Like, you
weren't stalling. You were riding, and in college it switches where riding is rewarded.
Yeah.
Riding in high school is penalized. And it drives me nuts.
And people need to realize, though, the amount of pressure on somebody in the state finals in a match like that, too. It wasn't like he was thinking like, oh, I'm not going to try to wrestle here. But there's a lot of nerves going on there. There's a lot. You don't want to lose that position. You don't want to make that crucial mistake. And I think that was mistakes that I made as a wrestler, and I try not to as a coach. Like, we put pressure on the kids, right? But we also try to make them realize that, after states, there's going to be something else. There's going to be something else. Like, it's not the be-all, end-all. Just wrestle as hard as you can, because I feel like if you just pressure too much, it's hard to compete. I don't know. To compete to your best.
Yeah.
If Morgan doesn't put pressure on himself there, he might win 10-0, with his capabilities.
He just opens up.
That's what I'm saying. So, like, he just didn't want to lose, which makes a lot of sense. I was very much like that. I never wanted to give him a takedown practice because I was just so like, I don't know. But it's a silly mindset, I think.
So what sections did you have to wrestle? Did you had a first round match? You threw the kid. You're up 5-0 in the first period.
Yeah, that was a good match. We went back and forth. I think I ended up beating him by like 2 points. And in my second match, that kid was a sophomore, and he caught one of the kids that was really good too in a pin, and I beat him 6-2. But yeah, my sectional final match and my state final match were the 2 most boring matches that you'll ever see.
Right.
Very conservative. But like you were saying, in practice, you didn't want to give up anything. In practice, I was the type of kid that would just let it fly. Like, I get taken down by people that just shouldn't take you down. Like, and then it stunk after I won the states. You know, you go to open mats the next week because you love the sport, right? And I'm out there trying to toss somebody or doing something stupid, and they're like, "Oh, I took down a state champ," and I'm just like, "All right." I'm like, "For real? Like, let's go. Let's come back up." You know?
So Morgan, you said that now you're doing youth, so you're giving back to the sport that you love, and you said your son Finn was wrestling for a while.
Yeah, my son Finn was wrestling for a couple of years. I started helping out at Somers, I would say 5 years ago. And then after 2 years, I became the head youth coach there. And this gentleman, Tom Morrow, who's the commissioner that does all the paperwork.
I love that you guys have a commissioner. I love that.
Oh, well,
He's the commissioner of Horace Greeley Wrestling.
Yeah, he does all the paperwork, but he coaches too. He's a great guy.
Yeah, the commish.
My son stopped wrestling, which is fine. We have a good group of about 35 kids, and
Great.
some of them are starting to become real studs. And I have a guy from that wrestled at Brown University, Brett Lassen, coaches with me, and you know, his son also kind of doesn't sometimes wrestle. So you know, it's the type of sport. If your son's not into it, it's the type of sport you got to love it to be into it. It's a lot of work. Let's face it. So I do love coaching, though. It's, you know, I'm a competitive person by nature, so now, you know, Yorktown's got 80 kids in their youth program, so it's like, all right, like,
it's gonna be tough. Section 1's gonna be tough in coming in the next 10 years.
yeah, it'll be great.
There's a lot of great head coaches that now move down to youth because their kids are coming through, and
Happens, yeah. Happens.
great though. I mean, Section 1 has gotten a lot better over the years, and I think that has a lot to do with club wrestling, and a lot to do with the youth programs, and a lot to do with people that, you know, like Adam Kern, who really put a lot of time into Section 1 youth program.
Yeah, he was the president of the Section 1, and he's brought up Swarfager's crop from the beginning. Like, you know, the year I went, like I said, I went up to Albany to watch. That was like, you know, Adam's like, I started with all these kids right now. You know,
I remember Adam when I was young, even. You know, I remember Adam. I remember Morgan. He might not remember me, but he remembers. I'm sure he remembers this. When you were coaching, you did a little high school coaching. You were at Mayapack for a little while with John. Because that year John did that, I was in ninth grade. Yeah, I think I was in ninth grade, and I would go up every once in a while because I was in the club already. I would go up every once in a while to Mayapack practice, and I remember Morgan being there and stuff.
Yeah, he always wanted me to wrestle Harney. I think he picked me to wrestle with him. I was like, oh, God.
But I mean, like, you had a taste of high school coaching. What do you like better, you think? High school coaching or doing the youth stuff?
I like it all. I like both. I do like both. You know, being that I was, you know, like I said, the aggressive kid, and, you know, it's great to have those kids in my program. You know, you'd rather have that kid that's too aggressive than the kid that's not, because you can focus that, you know.
Yeah.
So, you know, that was like, geez, me and John coached together like 20 years ago.
Yeah, my freshman year was like 2000, 2001. So, yeah, something like that.
So, but it was definitely fun, you know. I mean, like he said in his interview, like, we won the section the 1 year he coached.
Yeah, it's true.
So it's pretty cool.
Who's training those guys? You know, even when Joe Mahoney had the team the year before, they won a section title, and then Tony Iasello took it after John, and they won a section.
And then Sal won too.
And then Sal, yeah. I mean, they had a lot of
kind of thing going there.
Sal and Bimbo, yeah.
Yeah, Sal's a big guy.
I love Sal. He's a crazy guy, though. He's a good dude. But Morgan, before we finish, I know we jumped to coaching and we kind of finished wrestling. I know we talked about it a little bit before the interview started. I just wanted to hear how, because Coach brought up a good point. But so you had Coach Bill Shortfager from 9th through 11, you know, and I think it's really interesting, even though Coach, and I'll let you tell the story about knowing Kaleo, and you kind of did with the Aston Youth Program. But was that crazy to you in a sense? Like, oh, senior year, I'm having a whole new coach come in, or being that you knew him, it wasn't that different? And like, how'd that whole thing go?
Did he come there specifically for you?
Probably.
What's that?
Did he go there specifically because Morgan Carey was there and he knew he had a shot at the title?
He did.
It was his first year out.
Yeah, I mean, he coached me when I was 7 years old for a couple of years, and then there was different people that took over the youth. So he wasn't the main coach every year, but he was always, down there in the room. So I definitely had a close relationship with him. And even when Swerfagger was coaching me, I would see him at different tournaments, and I always liked Kaleo. Kaleo always did the right thing by me. Some people, he rubbed the wrong way. I understand that, but he did right by me big time. And I'm very thankful for Bruce Bell, obviously, to get me into the sport. My mom and dad were very supportive. But as far as that goes, I was very lucky to have Coach Swartfagger and Coach Kaleo. I think back then those were probably two of the best guys you could have picked from, basically. Coach Swartfagger was very smart taking me up to the state finals, or the state tournament, actually for the whole weekend, in 7th grade. And from that year forward, I went and watched. And that has a tremendous impact on somebody, when they're young. I've even said to my youth program, listen, parents, maybe next year let's forget the money to go to the state tournament, which is a real sham, I think, lately for the youth, and spend the money and go watch the high school kids. Show your kids what the ultimate goal is in the end of all this. It has a huge impact on you, especially like Albany. I used to do, it was at Syracuse. Now it's at Albany. They do a hell of a show, especially for the state finals. I mean,
Morgan, we took our entire team because we had a down year. We didn't have any second day guys for sections. So we told the kids we got a bus for them, and we took them all up.
Oh, that's awesome.
We went up for Saturday. We didn't go Friday.
We have a lot of freshmen. The thing is, like we were talking about, Aaron won the state title last season. Jacob was in the state finals the year before. We had 3 all-state guys the year before. And then now we have a bunch of 9th graders who didn't even do much youth or middle school, and they just decided to come out for the team. So, of course, that's kind of going to be the result we have. But if we could show them, really, I wish we had, Coach DeBellis did an outstanding job with the youth this year. But if we had a guy like Morgan or who runs Turnabi runs Yorktown, right?
Yeah.
But they're so into it, that's the key. If you could get those youth guys coming up, killing it. But, we did good this year considering how little experience the kids had. And I think, like Morgan said, it kind of gave the kids the bug a little bit.
Yeah.
They saw how cool it was. They're like, I kind of want to be there.
That's why it's worth putting in that time. But back to your question. So Swartfagger, very goal oriented. He had great practices. He would say it's either the practice is going to be long and hard or short and sweet. We used to have scrimmages, and like Fox Lane would come over, and he would just go nuts. And like we would have a couple teams, and they would just start leaving. It was like he would just prove the point. Like we might not be the most technical, but we will be the most conditioned team. That was his motto. But when I found out he wasn't coming back my senior year, I definitely was upset. And it's at the end of the day, to me, wrestling is still an individual sport. I mean, you do win as a team, and so I had goals. It wasn't going to change anything. And I pretty much think I found out right away that Kaleo was going to be my coach my senior year. So I wasn't upset long. And, he picked the perfect assistant coach. And so as far as how practices were run, it was different for sure. Kaleo was a little bit more hard-nosed, but at the end of the day, I had a goal, and no matter who was coaching me, I wanted to finish what I, set out to do. And at the end of the season, after I won the sectionals, or before I won the sectionals, Coach Kaleo did write me a letter. There was a lot in there, and yeah, he did say he came back to coach me.
That's great. I mean, it's just a crazy circumstance. Not Coach Bill's fault, not Coach Kaleo's, whatever it is. It's just, I find that really interesting that, this guy wins a state title. It's just the guy's first year coach, but he had past history with that guy. And it's like, there's a lot of things in that story that maybe the person that sees Morgan Carey state champ 1995 on the wall wouldn't understand that, all that went into that.
Yeah, and I still communicate with him. He emails me. He's down in Florida, I believe. He's retired. Now, did Swerfegger? I know when I was up there at Albany, he had a kid that took second. Has he had a state champ?
Not as far as I know.
See, it's funny because two great coaches, and Kaleo he had somebody take second. So Kaleo was only state champ after all those years, and Swerfegger, he'll get one.
Yeah, well, did you watch Coach Swerfegger's interview? Because I asked him because he's getting a little older, but he's still great. I mean, he crushes it. He's still very energetic in the room, does a great job. I'm like, Coach, you think anytime you're gonna? He goes, as long as I could keep going, and I feel like he's gonna be the guy that's gonna keep going for a while.
Yeah, he's gonna outdo a Musso.
Yeah, well, the one thing we got to do for Coach Bill is he should be in the Westchester Hall of Fame.
He's not.
He's not in the Westchester Hall of Fame. He is in Section 1, I think.
I mean,
as
state
a
wrestler and an awesome football player.
He'll be the national, but Westchester Hall of Fame is pretty. So we should try to get him back in there.
Yeah, I have a letter for that. A heartfelt letter, as far as wrestling and as far as my life and business, I'm self-employed like he is. His goal setting and his character, and he was just a great mentor.
He was never my official coach, Morgan, but he was around doing off-season stuff when I was coming up, and always just a pleasure to be around. A really, really good guy. And to go back to your Kaleo point, I hadn't talked to Kaleo for a while in that college, time, but he still texts me once in a while. He randomly texted me the other night at 10:30 at night about a stock tip. So I forgot to answer. I don't know anything really about stocks. But if Coach Kaleo was watching this, I didn't ignore it. I just kind of fell asleep. So I'll respond back to that soon. But interesting. They care. It's weird. Morgan now as a coach, right? You build these relationships. It's you want to see them through almost.
Yeah, absolutely. But I just want to mention. So my coaches, my freshman year was Swerfegger and Tom Jobin.
Great guys.
Coach. That was a classic year. Two past heavyweight guys, both bald, both screaming with the two loudest voices in the gym at all times. And then my sophomore and junior year was Coach Swerfegger, head coach. Adam Kern, I was lucky to have as my assistant both years. Was always on the mat with me, helping me out in wrestling. He was tough as nails. And then
he's also a harsh, really guy. Graduated in '90.
Yeah, he's one of those guys who used to run the school. And my senior year, Kaleo, and I kept mentioning the gentleman, but I never said his name. He was from Pennsylvania, Coach John Carey. He was he worked for IBM, and he was my weight, but he was just scrappy. He was a good wrestler. And
why does that name sound so familiar? Did he stay around for a little while, John Carey? Did they stay around?
He might have, but Coach John Carey.
That's familiar.
Thank Carlos Jimenez. Definitely want to thank him for spending a lot of time with me and taking me around.
It's awesome.
Great. You got to have mentors. You got to have people in a great support system like Mr. Bell. If you don't have people like this in your lives, the trajectory is different.
Yeah, I mean, my dad taped every single high school match I ever had. He was employed. He set his schedule around my wrestling schedule. I went the first time I ever flew on a plane. I was 16. I flew to Missouri for the Cadet Nationals, and my father drove his car 23 hours down there to watch me wrestle.
It's awesome.
And my mom was at every match, screaming, "Squeeze, he's pinned." It's it's a great sport. Guys, it's like a family.
It's a family. It really is, and I love that every story that we've heard so far, from Morgan to Aaron to Jacob, to especially the kids that had a lot of success. Right, a lot of times you hear the family was there for them. A lot of different. It's like you say, the village thing. It takes a village. It's not Morgan's work ethic and his skill and his toughness got him there, but there's definitely people along the way that helped, and especially your family, and you see that. It's just that type of sport.
Absolutely. Hey, let's plug Morgan's business. He's a local business owner. Henry Allen Garage Doors.
That's where the colors come from. Orange and
Love it.
Love it.
Yeah. I noticed your trucks all over
don't
the place.
realize that. But Chappaqua moms, they all rave about us. So
Yeah. Once I get a garage, you're putting in a garage door. I gotta get a garage.
Once I get a garage.
I gotta get a garage.
yeah, I have a carport now. So
Is that the way to go? Should I do that? I think I should do that.
a carport? No, I'm divorced. That's why I have a carport. I had a garage. Sorry.
That's all right. All right. Well,
Morgan, it was really
you
cool
get the
catching up
closing words.
though, because I knew you were really good. I knew you were state champ, but to actually hear, and like I said, I saw the highlight video. I seen some stuff. I heard stories and whatever, but to actually hear the real story from you, from youth all the way through high school is pretty interesting. And I really hope that our kids, you know, because we're doing a lot of these, like, you know, mine and DeBellis's are out now, and you know, the later ones I seem like I really want them to watch. So the good thing about these is once I put these up on YouTube and stuff, if they don't watch them now, which they should be, it's quarantine. Like you should be, if I was in high school, I would have watched all these 3 times already. But I'll keep pushing them out before like sectionals. Maybe I'll push Morgan's out again, you know, just so they should know their history, be a student of the game, you know?
And thank you two for, you know, making Horse Grilly on the map. I mean, you guys are amazing, both of you.
Trying. We appreciate that.
Great.
Mostly me, though, right?
Yeah, of course, the Bells.
He's the handsome one. I just yell some things.
Well, Morgan, thanks so much, man. Stay on. We're going to stop recording.